Quirks began to appear in the world, and slowly over time, these quirks would become part of everyday society. People collaborated with each other to make sure that the world was a better place, and they used their quirks to better their own lives and the lives of their neighbors. There was crime, things hadn't changed that much, but still, in a way, everything changed. It started with a criminal who wanted everything for himself. This criminal thirsted for power. He needed everything to be his. He started to lead small groups of villains, and eventually, he brought them together to form an organization that would grow so large and grow so influential that it would take over all of Japan from the shadows. He had no mercy, and he had no passion other than ruling over others and taking what wasn't his. All for one. That was his mentality, that was his name, and that was his quirk. He could take quirks from others forcibly and mix and match them in order to accomplish his goals. One would think such a quirk would be the ultimate quirk, a quirk that could be used for good, for an amazing collaborative effort. This sort of quirk makes all things possible. As long as society has someone to stand behind, it's likely that this quirk could have been used as a beacon of hope, as a way for people to come together to solve all of life's problems, or at least the ones that can be solved. It was a quirk that could have been a great asset for good. However, it was made an even greater asset for evil. All for One ushered Japan into an era of chaos, where villains roamed wild and preyed upon the weak, where families would be torn apart without any notice, and where things that people felt made them unique in this new era of powers were ripped away from them. That's the true evil of what this villain did. It wasn't enough for him to take away the peace and tranquility from the lives of his victims. It wasn't enough for him to take away their safety or their country even. All for One took away their quirks, and then proceeded to use those quirks for evil means. This sort of thing could drive someone insane. Knowing that their quirk is being used to harm others and that they have no control over what's happening, one couldn't really blame one of these victims for feeling partial blame. Seeing all of the darkness and destruction that had been cast over Japan like a great shadow, one stood up. The criminal's brother, a weak and frail human with no quirk and no power of his own, stood up against his brother when even those of amazing powers made to shock and amaze could not. Often, pro heroes have stories about their childhoods, and one thing is fairly common amongst these stories. I didn't have time to think, my body just moved. This is true of the brother, who rose up against a criminal only to be stopped dead in his tracks. All for One jokingly took pity on his weak brother, and he forced on him a quirk that would allow the user to stockpile power in the body. Knowing that his brother could never stockpile enough power to defeat him, he did this to watch his brother struggle over and over, knowing that he'd never succeed. However, there was something that even the great planner himself could not foresee. The criminal's quirkless brother actually had a hidden ability. His quirk was to be able to pass his own quirk on to others. He would have never known about this ability. It would have been utterly useless to him. However, when mixed with the power to stockpile power, something new formed. Yes, the brother would never be able to defeat the criminal. However, the criminal was researching and finding all sorts of ways to extend his own life, and his reign seemed like it would never end. If the brother died, there would truly be no hope, as no one quirk could stand up against the criminal and his empire. So the brother entrusted the power to future generations. He passed down the new quirk that would be called One for All, and he knew that one day someone wielding this quirk would finally amass enough power to defeat the criminal. The name is the opposite of the criminal's quirk because it served an opposite purpose. All for One was a quirk used to take hope away from others, a quirk used to steal the quirks of others to be used for evil. One for All was different. It was a quirk used to give others hope, a quirk used to create light in the darkness that would one day become a shining beacon for all those who wish for peace and sunny days to come. One for All was the power passed down through many that meant one person could change things for everyone. That one person had the weight of everyone's hopes and dreams on their shoulders, and that one person would defend everyone from the person who wished to take those things away from everyone. This ability would be passed down through the generations, where it eventually reached Nana Shimura. Nana Shimura's history is unknown, as she knew the importance of privacy, but she too struggled against the criminal who kept himself alive with all different manner of quirk and medical science. Nana was just a hero trying to combat evil, the greatest evil, but there was a child that came along that shifted her perspective. This child told Nana that crime would always exist, that things would always be the same, unless the people had someone to look up to. He said that people only see the criminal and what he's created, and although they see heroes, even those heroes themselves lack a person to look up to, a person to think about when times get tough, a person to depend on. This young student, Toshinori Yagi, believed that a symbol was needed. Just like how the criminal was a symbol of all of the things wrong with the world, a symbol of greed, a symbol of deceit, a symbol of pain and anguish, and a symbol of evil, the world also needed a symbol of giving, a symbol of truth, a symbol of kindness and warmth, and a symbol of peace. Nana heard the young man's words and chose to stake the future on him. She believed that the young man was right, and she saw the passion in his eyes. However, the young man had no quirk, so what he would be able to do on his own wouldn't amount to anything. This young man who said these prolific words would never be able to act on them. He'd find himself just like every other civilian without powers who had no other choice than to live under the tyranny of the criminal. No, even worse. He wouldn't be able to sit still and leave things as they were. He'd try to change things, he'd take action, and without a power of his own, he'd likely end up a casualty of the criminal, like many others did. There was only one way to see things through. There was only one way to make sure that this man had a chance to do the things that he believed that he could. The things that were right, the things that people needed. She decided to pass on One for All to this boy, and she helped train him into the man that he would one day become. She taught him about being a hero. She told him that a hero's job doesn't just end at saving someone's life, that they also have to save the person's spirit. A good hero can save anybody. He can jump into a flaming building and rescue those inside. He can step into an alleyway where someone is being robbed and fight off the attacker. But a true hero? A hero worthy of being called the symbol of peace could save people with a smile on his face. He could arrive with a giant smile that told people it's gonna be a-okay because I'm here now and your worries are over. This smile would serve as a sigh of relief to all of those who would see it. As the young man performed his hero duties, that smile would become very well known amongst the society. A hero that could save others with a smile on his face, who never lost and never failed to save anybody. He was perfect. He was the shining beacon that was made to cast out the darkness, but things can't ever go so well. At some unknown point in time after One for All was passed on to the boy who had now become a great hero known as All Might, the criminal, All for One, made his move. He engaged in battle with a weakened Nana Shimura, and ultimately, he would defeat and kill the hero. This angered All Might as much as anything could anger anyone. His beloved sensei, who had made him into the man that he was, who had raised him up to be the symbol of peace that he so desperately called for in his youth, was defeated and killed by the symbol of evil that it was his job to defeat. All Might began to defeat the criminal's henchmen and puppets one by one. All Might built a legacy off defeating these villains, and his fire burned so bright inside that all the criminal could do is watch. He had to watch as the power that he so foolishly gave away on a whim was used to bring down his empire and bring forth a new world of peace. A new society of heroes was born, and All Might became the symbol for hope all across Japan. Eventually, All for One and All Might would come to battle, and damage was done to both sides. All Might was nearly fatally injured during this fight, and he had a large majority of his organs destroyed. This limited the amount of hero work he could do, since his new weaker body could only handle his massive power in short bursts. This was fine though, because All Might had killed the criminal. He sat with the criminal in a pool full of both of their blood, and it seemed that he had finally brought an end to the criminal's reign of terror. However, the criminal would somehow escape and live to see another day. And this is the inciting incident for the story of My Hero Academia. Two major things happened as a result of this. One was that All Might had to find a successor, someone to pass One for All to. We know that he passed his ability down to Izuku Midoriya, otherwise known as the hero Deku. Deku was like All Might in tons of ways, but All Might saw Deku as someone that could be even better than he was. Someone that held all of the same values as him, with all of the same passion, if not more, but with no quirk. He had reminded All Might of himself as a youth, and Deku's ability to run into dangerous situations without any plan or any way of actually doing anything worried All Might. This boy can't help himself. He can't help but to try to help others. If nothing's done, he might find himself in a situation that he can't get out of because he has no quirk. But he has a strong sense of justice, and he wants to be able to protect others more than he wants to do anything else in this world, even breathing. This is why All Might chose the boy. On the other side of things though, All for One, the criminal, laid his own schemes. All for One took advantage of the fact that the previous holder of One for All, Nana Shimura, had asked All Might and his other master, Gran Torino, to keep her family out of things. She asked that her family and their family be left out of anything having to do with All Might or heroics in general. This was to protect them, because although Nana carried the weight of being a One for All user, and she had been happy with that choice, It wouldn't be fair for her to force that choice onto future generations of her family. All Might and Gran Torino respected this decision, however, it would lead things down a dark path. Nana Shimura's grandson, Tenko Shimura, lived in a very tough environment. It's assumed that he had an abusive father, and eventually Tenko would kill his father. This was most likely by accident, since it happened around the time that Tenko's quirk would begin to develop, and since his quirk let him disintegrate things by touching them with all 5 fingers on his hands, you could see how a child with no knowledge of how this worked could easily have killed somebody by accident. Somehow, almost as if this was planned, the criminal appeared before the young Tenko Shimura and told him that everything would be okay. He said, "You did nothing wrong. Nobody came to save you, and this is what happened. You didn't fail, you were failed. Society failed you. The heroes and those who were supposed to protect you failed you. And most importantly, All Might, the shining beacon of hope who never failed to save anyone, failed to save you." All for One told Tenko, "Come with me. I can save you." And that's exactly what the boy did. All for One had chosen his successor as well. He chose the grandson of his hated enemy and turned him into the leader of the League of Villains, a group of villains who wishes to tear down the Hero Society and kill All Might. The boy's name was changed to Shigaraki Tamura, and he was allowed to run wild and destroy whatever it is that he pleased. This boy would become the nemesis of All Might's successor, but that's a story for another time. Eventually, All Might would learn of Shigaraki Tamura, and without knowing the truth behind his origin, he battled with Shigaraki and his League of Villains to protect the future generation of heroes at UA, a school for young heroes. These altercations would lead to an eventual raid of the hideout of the villains, and once it seemed like Shigaraki and his band of villains would fail, All for One would step in to save his successor. All Might shows up to take on All for One, and their fated battle starts here. These two are seeing each other for the first time since their last fight, and All Might is finally aware that All for One is the one behind all of the terrible things that have happened over the course of our story. All Might arrives on the battlefield and clashes with One for All, and at the same time, a student that was taken hostage is there along with the rest of the League of Villains. Everyone can do nothing but watch or try to escape as the two juggernauts go back and forth. All Might takes note of this, and now that the battlefield is clear, he can take on All for One with his full power. He's been holding back, and he's already been in his muscle form for quite a while, so things need to be handled immediately. All for One helps his other League members escape, and as All Might lunges after him to strike a devastating blow, All for One shows the power of his ability. He uses a quirk called Transmission to teleport All Might's other teacher, Gran Torino, into the path of All Might's punch. He also uses a quirk called Force Reversal, which covers All Might's arm in a black liquid. All Might's attack hits Gran Torino dead in the face, and then All Might's arm is blown back, possibly breaking some of the bones in his arm and fist, but he can't stop now. His sensei's nemesis, no, the nemesis of peace, is right in front of him. He grabs Gran Torino as All for One prepares another large-scale attack, and All Might swings with all of his strength. In a flash, a Detroit Smash clashes with the criminal's attack, but All Might can't quite negate it completely as he coughs up blood. Things are in a dire state. All Might realizes that his time is short, and All for One keeps antagonizing him. All for One tells All Might that heroes are weak because they have so many things that they need to protect. The criminal sees others as a weakness and believes that as long as he's all-powerful, those who need help don't matter. If they aren't strong enough to defend or protect themselves, then they're worthless. And if they are strong enough to protect themselves, then their only worth is as pawns for Shigaraki or as quirks for the criminal. He sees no value in others, and this angers All Might. It enrages All Might. All Might rebuttals, telling the criminal that he's always been like that. He's always seen people as playthings. He's always intruded on the lives of those who want nothing to do with chaos or evil. People who just want to live peaceful lives and make the world a better place. He's always trampled on their hopes and dreams as he walked down his path of darkness, and it was time for that to come to an end. All Might lunges forward and grabs All for One's wrist, and before All for One can react, All Might punches him in the face with a high caliber punch, shattering All for One's mask and revealing his twisted face. He has no eyes, no nose, and no ears. He's a shell of his former self, and his twisted form mirrors his twisted intentions. He was once a normal-looking man, but his ambitions had brought him here. These injuries were a result of his battle with All Might, and you can see why All Might thought that he was dead. He's grotesque. However, he isn't finished. He notices that helicopters and reporters are gathering around the scene, and he takes this opportunity to mention All Might's master, Nana Shimura. He tells All Might that his speeches mean nothing, because he's heard everything All Might is saying from Nana Shimura before she died pathetically. All Might is shook with rage, and he too is in a twisted looking form. Half of his face is in a Small Might form, and the other half is in his muscular form. Elsewhere, society gathers around to watch the events. In a Times Square looking area, the students who saved Bakugo, other heroes, and civilians are all gathering around to see All Might and All for One duke it out. It's almost as if all of Japan is watching their best hero take on his arch nemesis. The scale of the battle amazed everyone, but everyone had a weird feeling in their stomach. No one had ever seen All Might struggle. He was a beacon of hope. He was an undefeatable giant who never let anyone down. Seeing him injured? It was hard to see, but everyone still had faith in him. Since it looked like the fight was over, worries passed fairly quickly. However, on the battlefield, things were getting ready to change. All for One made fun of Nana. He said things about her never amounting to anything and sticking too closely to her ideals. He said it was almost as if she had no power at all, and he tells All Might that he doesn't even know how to begin to explain her shameful death. This enrages All Might, who readies another point-blank punch, but All for One lets loose a huge blow. Gran Torino gets up and saves All Might from being seen by the cameras, and the criminal scoffs at this. Gran Torino tells All Might that he always gets caught up like this. 6 years ago, he let All for One tear a hole right through his stomach as he had a chance to capture him, and that's because he keeps letting All for One's words get to him. He needs to stop letting him antagonize him. Gran Torino reveals that All for One's attacks, the attacks that he's using, and his methods of battle are completely different from the last time that All Might and him fought. If Toshinori wants to capture him, he'll have to beat him while his guard is down. At the same time, the newscopter begins their live report. They comment on how it only took moments for the Kamino Ward of the city to be destroyed by a villain that's currently fighting the symbol of peace on equal footing. We start to see other heroes and students from the series who aren't at the scene in their homes watching the battle, and we start to hear some of the population expressing their doubts over what's happening. All Might looks pretty beat up. What are the other heroes doing? Aren't the villains getting out of hand lately? Are the heroes getting played? No, they're just slacking off. The doubt from society is part of All for One's plan. He tells All Might that the trust that the public had in the hero community is crumbling. He says that he plans on putting the final nail in the coffin here, during this battle. The criminal tells All Might, "I hate you. I hate you just as much as you hate me. Even though I killed your teacher and you really hate me, I hate you just as much, and I want to see you die as gruesomely and unflatteringly as possible." All for One prepares another long-range air attack, and Gran Torino tells All Might to dodge the attack and counter. However, All for One reveals that there's a civilian behind All Might, so he can't dodge. The attack comes and All Might has to block it or send it back somehow. He has to protect the person behind him. As Gran Torino notices, he tries to dive in to save the person, but the large blast from All for One reaches them first. Thankfully, All Might negated this blast as well, protecting the civilian behind him. However, this did come at a price. All for One laughs and he tells All Might that he wants to erase his pride first, and he wants to show the world All Might's weakened form, which All Might has been hiding from the public. The public sees this and everyone is shocked. The news reporters are confused. However, the one person who's seeing this and is more hurt than anyone else is Deku. Deku knows that All Might's role as a symbol of peace is over. Now that people have seen his weakened form, they know that he has a weakness. They know that he isn't perfect. He isn't almighty. He can be defeated, he can be killed, and that's a huge blow to All Might's public image. This shakes the boy to his core. However, All Might is significantly less bothered. All Might tells All for One that while my body may decline and decay, and even if the public sees me in this pitiful state, I'm still the symbol of peace no matter what, and there's nothing that All for One can do to take even a fragment of that away from me. All Might's eyes are resolved to see this through. He looks at All for One with a stare full of fire and passion, but All for One is prepared. He tells All Might, "Oh, is that so? Magnificent. Then what I'm about to say shouldn't bother you at all." This is when All for One reveals to All Might that Shigaraki Tomura is Nana Shimura's grandchild. All Might's eyes widen, and All for One says that he's been thinking about the face that All Might would make when he finally revealed this to him. He set all of this in motion long ago and created an opportunity for All Might and Shigaraki to meet, just to have All Might defeat him while he was still being a big and brave hero, not knowing that he was defeating his sensei's grandchild. All Might can't believe it, but All for One tells him that he knows that it's true. He knows this is the type of thing that All for One would do. He says, "Hey, what happened to your smile?" I'd say that All Might was shaken to his core by this revelation. His eyes began to water. He calls All for One scum. He doesn't know how to handle this information, and All For One just laughs and jokes about how what he just said definitely took more than a fragment of All Might's pride away, and this sends All Might into a spiral of despair. His own master's family, brought to this? What has he done? He screams out in pain. He's lost in his own thoughts and pain. He doesn't know what to do anymore. Has he been wrong this whole time? Can he beat All For One? What will he do about Shigaraki? Is it too late for him? Why didn't he prevent this? How could he have not known? His pride was shaken. His mind was in a frenzy, and he fell deeper and deeper into the darkness of despair. Until a light reached out to him. The light was a voice. It screamed, "Don't lose! Please, win, All Might!" All around Japan, these thoughts were echoed. People screamed and shouted at All Might, at their screens. "Don't lose, All Might! Please win! Please, don't die! Live on!" As their collective screams started to come in, it's almost as if All Might could hear them. Right at that instant, All Might puts all of his power into his arm, and energy surrounds it, similar to how Deku's energy surrounds him in his full cowling form. This is it. This is all of All Might's power in one hand, ready to be used to take down his enemy. He looks at All For One and tells them that yes, heroes do have many things that they're supposed to protect, and because of that, they can't lose. All Might has a flashback to his master giving him words of encouragement. She told him to remember why he clenches his fist, to remember why he's a hero. He has to let his power push him past his limits. We see a younger All Might, and he tells his teacher that he wants to create a world where people can live their lives smiling, and for that reason, a symbol of peace is necessary. Heroes resist evil, and they resist death. With All Might's power clenched into his own hand, Gran Torino looks at his student and sees that All Might is almost out of power. This has to be his final attack. All For One notices this as well, and he asks them if he's really willing to bet it all on one punch. All For One realizes that wounded heroes are the most dangerous, and he remembers how All Might looked when he came for All For One even with a ripped open stomach, and he says he still sees this in his sleep. Endeavor sends a huge fire blast up at All For One, and the criminal blocks this attack with a high-powered attack of his own. He looks at Endeavor and says that it's impressive that he managed to take care of all of the Nomu. Endeavor isn't worried about All For One's words though. He looks straight at All Might and screams at him, "All Might! What's with that twisted form?" This is when we see into Endeavor's mind a little bit. We learn how upset he gets because he's seen the huge gap between himself and All Might. The sight of All Might's back makes him feel despair, so he can't accept seeing All Might in his Small Might form in the face of an enemy. No matter how he looks, everyone is rooting for All Might. Everyone wants him to win, and no matter how his body decays or changes, he'll always be the symbol of peace, the #1 hero. As this happens, we get a final flashback to Gran Torino and Nana Shimura talking about All Might. Nana says that All Might thinks that crime hasn't fallen because society doesn't have a pillar, and he wants to be that pillar to hold up everyone's hopes and dreams. Everyone in the country watching this event take place is screaming for All Might's success, praying for his victory. Not because they're scared for themselves, but because they love All Might. All For One does a large-scale attack and destroys the immediate area. This sends all of the other pro heroes flying, and then he sets his sights on All Might. All For One readies his most powerful ability. He fuses multiple quirks together and creates a large twisted arm meant only for one thing: destruction. The criminal's arm swells up as he starts to list off the different quirks that he's using to twist and manipulate his arm. But it isn't just a fusion of his most powerful quirks. This arm is filled with rage, hatred, pain, suffering. It's filled with the lost dreams of those that All For One has victimized. It's filled with the anguish of the society that he terrorized. This fist is filled with everything wrong with his way of thinking, everything wrong with the notion that everything belongs to one person. This fist is All For One. And as the criminal begins to charge forward in the blink of an eye, he's met with something unexpected. All Might, who should be broken, who should be all but defeated, has that look in his eyes. The hero looks up and begins to charge his final attack, a smash to end all smashes. All For One, however, knows that the hero is out of gas. One for All is no longer inside him. He's simply protecting the minuscule embers of that power inside of himself with everything that he has, and this final attack will put an end to everything. So, why does the hero look so resolved? Why doesn't he look pitiful? Why doesn't he look scared? In an attempt to psych the hero out, All For One yells, "Izuku Midoriya, He's the one you transferred One for All to, correct? He came here without the ability to do anything. It's almost like he can't control himself. I'll make sure he dies feeling every little bit of regret possible, and that's because of you. You lose as a hero. You lose as someone who thought they could stand up to me. But most importantly, you even lose as a sensei. As a teacher, you failed him. The hero and the criminal clash fists. All Might thinks about Deku, and he knows that he can't be scolded by him for losing. No matter what happens, he can't let Deku down most of all, and that pushes him past his limits. As the two collide, the criminal's arm, filled with pain and anguish, starts to push All Might back. But All Might makes a quick decision. He sacrifices one of his arms and transfers all of his power into the other arm, knocking him off balance. The criminal scoffs at this. How unsightly. That punch was weak. The hero laughs at this, and he says, "That's because I didn't put my back into it," and charges his other arm full of power. But this isn't just the power of One for All. This is the power of peace. This is the power of justice, of kindness and compassion. This is a fist with the combined efforts of everyone that's ever stood up against All for One, the combined efforts of anyone who stands for good against evil. In his mind, the hero sees his master, and she gives him the power that he needs in order to finally put an end to their long-fated enemy. Nana Shimura hands All Might One for All, one last time, and All Might picks up that flame that he's been taking care of for so long. That small, feeble ember that he's risked everything to protect, and it becomes a giant, raging inferno. A flame that lights the darkness, a beacon of light that serves as a pillar for everyone that believes in the symbol of peace. With one full force swing of his fist, the hero screams out, "United States of Smash!" and hits the criminal with all of his might. Farewell, All for One, and farewell, One for All. A giant explosion covers the area. Everyone goes silent, and as the smoke clears, one figure can be seen standing. And it's All Might. All Might raises his hand in his Small Might form and claims victory. He pushes himself into his muscle form, and his last act as a symbol of peace and #1 hero is to proclaim justice and peace as the winners over evil and chaos. Woo! Hey guys, this is Pineapple, and that was pretty dramatic. I like doing dramatic reads for some of this sort of stuff in the anime, so let me know if you want more. I've done it before with Deku and Muscular, so of course I had to do it for All Might versus All for One. If you're interested in seeing or hearing more of these sort of audio booky type videos, then just let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, throw a like my way by smashing that like button with the United States of Smash if you can. If you want to see more of my content in the future, subscribe and hit that bell icon to join the League of Notifications. You can also follow my Twitter at VocalPineapple to see me tweet about all kinds of things, but I'm gonna get going and start working on this week's new videos. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the comments. Peace.